Right, let's go ahead and call the Senate to order. The Sergeant at Arms will please secure the chamber doors. Members, please take your seat. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their presence, except for judicial proceedings? All right, the clerk will take the call. With 34 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, but just barely, the Senate of Maryland is now in session. Is again back in session, that is. I know, we're trying to move them. So judicial proceedings is coming over as we speak. Let's just do some, do we have any announcements before we jump into anything ahead of? Chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have some visitors in the gallery.
Excellent.
We have a couple of young kids, relatively speaking. Stu Schmidt on the right and Kim Mills on the left are members of my district here to watch us in action. They spent a very interesting hour in front of EHE. They were amazed by our rapid vote going.
It's not a normal time. We are in that time of year. So welcome to the Senate, and you get to see the final throes of the legislative term here. Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th.
Still trying to fill a couple minutes, Mr. President.
Senator may proceed.
Just want to say today's an exciting day for baseball fans all across the region. Today's Orioles Opening day. They're playing in Tampa Bay.
Yes, it is.
And at the bottom of the second, no score. Distinguished senator from Baltimore County, as you can see, has her Orioles orange and black on. And I was glad to get out the orange and black tie this morning. So here's hoping that to a good season, and hopefully that rebuild moves quickly and the Orioles get back in contention very soon. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Senator. Totally agree. Let's go O's. It has been a rough few years here. We've been struggling, but rebuild continues. Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I know she's going to hate me for doing this, but I'd like to wish Teresa Goddard a very happy birthday. Yep. She is our the glue that holds together this caucus up in the minority office, and today's her birthday. So thank you.
Happy birthday, Teresa. She's wonderful. Wonderful. All right. We should wait for JPR to get here, right? Let's wait for them to get here for that. All right. Let's just do the messages then. We'll waive the reading from the prior earlier session of the journal. So let's do the message from the House of Delegates. This is message number 12. Clerk will read the bills.
Senate Bill 32, Senator Carozzo, Worcester County Public Safety Buildings used for agritourism.
Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. We have another one. This is number 13. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Joint Resolution 11, Senator Huff, Solidarity with the Government and People of Ukraine.
All right. We've got another message. These are first reading House bills. Good luck. Clerk will read the message.
House Bill 711, Joint Committee on Federal Relations, Potomac River Compact, clarification of the effectiveness of amendments, rules. Majority
Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. They will be referred to the Committee on Rules. All right. We have some special order calendars. If there's no objection, let's start there for the moment while we're waiting for JPR to get here. It's a lot of stuff that I don't think anything too controversial here. Let's start with special order calendar number 91. 91, clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 434, Delegate Wells, Motor Vehicle Speed Limits, Establishment and Enforcement. Questions on the adoption of the favorable report as amended.
Oh, this is out of JPR, but they've already, the question is on the favorable report as amended. Any objections to the adoption of the favorable committee report? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 434 is ordered passed for third reading. Can we do budget and tax? Can we do some budget and tax calendars? All right, let's do number 55. 55.
House Bill 38, Delegate Healy, Maryland Transportation Authority, video tolls collection, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City as the floor leader.
I got it. Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 38 reestablishes the authority that the Maryland Transportation Authority, MDTA, to recall a delinquent account from General Central Collections Unit if specified conditions are met. Mr. President, this was something that they already had when the pandemic hit. It got sunset, and we're just making sure we address this issue. There are no committee amendments. Please adopt the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 38 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 76, Delegate Smith, Community Solar Energy Generating Systems, exemption from property taxes, favorable.
Chair recognizes Senator from Anne Arundel as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 76, as amended by the House, and there are no amendments in the Senate, but it is now the exact match of Senate Bill 264, which passed the Senate unanimously a few weeks back. Just as a reminder, this would eliminate personal property taxes for certain community solar projects as long as the benefit is going to low and moderate income households. We did put many good parameters around that. Can't be more than 2 megawatts. And we stripped the landmines surface out of provision out of it. And Mr. President, there are no committee amendments. There's a unanimous budget and tax vote, and I move adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 76 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 449, Delegate Smith, Property Tax, Renters Property Tax Relief Program, application period, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 6 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 449 authorizes State Department of Excess Assessment and Taxation to accept an application for the Renters Property Tax Relief Program within 3 years after October the 1st of the calendar year for which property tax relief is sought. If a renter was at least 70 years old in the calendar year for which property tax relief is sought and eligible for the property tax relief for the taxable year for which the credit is sought. There's no amendments. Move favorable to the committee report. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections to the report? No objections. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 449 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 945, Delegate Shoemaker, Carroll County multi-drawing raffles, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 945 increases the number of weekly drawings allowed in a multi-drawing raffle that qualified organizations in Carroll County may conduct during a year from 30 to 52. The bill also repeals the major prize limit of $1,100 for the multi-drawing raffle. Move the adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections with the report? No objections. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 945 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1398, Delegate Attar, Property Taxes, Baltimore City Residential Retention Credit, Termination of Sunset, favorable.
Chair recognizes senator from Baltimore City as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 1398 repeals the June 30th termination date of Chapter 623 of 2014, which provided for residential retention property tax credit in Baltimore City. There are no committee amendments, Mr. President. Please move adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections? Seeing no objections, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1398 is hereby ordered passed for third reader. Mr. Chairman, were these all unanimous by any chance? Do we know on this calendar? If so, could we potentially, would the chairman be interested in moving to put these onto consent for third reading?
Move to be on consent calendar for
All
third
right.
reading.
Any objections? Without objection, the calendar 55 will be converted to a consent calendar for third reading. All right, let's do Budget and Tax 56, Report 56. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 725, Delegate Lukey, Children Therapeutic Child Care Program Funding, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Senator from Montgomery County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 725 establishes the Therapeutic Child Care Grant Program in the state that is administered by the Maryland State Department of Education. For fiscal year 2023 through 2025, the governor must include a $3.7 million appropriation in the annual budget bill for the program to be distributed as provided in the bill. There are 2 committee amendments. The first is technical. The second amendment alters the bill as I already described and requires a report. I move adoption of the amendments and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Seeing no objection, 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 725 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1205, Delegate P. Young, State Government, Information Technology and Cybersecurity Related Infrastructure, Modernized Maryland Act of 2022, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Senator from the 27th as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 1205 is aligned with Senate Bill 811, that we read earlier today. As amended, it establishes the Modernized Maryland Oversight Commission to advise the Secretary of DOIT and make periodic recommendations on network security standards and actions to take based on assessments. Bill also requires DOIT to hire independent contractors. It establishes a local cyber support fund. It expands DOIT's responsibilities, establishes DGS as the primary procurement unit and control agency for cybersecurity, and it exempts the Board of Public Works oversight and approval on reporting requirements. There are 4 amendments. First is technical. Second requires water and sewer systems to be assessed. Second establishes a special fund. The third adds the responsibilities of the Secretary of DOIT to establish a commission. The fourth pertains to the dedicated purpose account. Move adoption of the amendments and favorable committee report. Mr. President, I do have an additional amendment.
All right, let's take up the report and then we'll take the amendment in just a moment. On the 4 committee amendments, are there any discussion, any objections? Without objection, the 4 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. The floor leader has a committee amendment. Let's get it up on the board here.
The number will be,
We'll scan it.
okay, thank you.
Just want to make sure it's the right one. All right, Senator may explain the amendment.
Yes, it is a technical amendment which will put it in the direct posture or the same posture as Senate Bill 811.
All right. Any objections to the committee's amendment, technical amendment? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1205 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. All right. Report number 58 out of Budget and Tax. We've got 1 bill. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 723, Delegate Charles, State Finance and Procurement Procedures and Pricing and Selection Committee for Preferred Providers, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator from Prince George's as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 723, as amended, is a matching cross-file to Senate Bill 461, as passed unanimously by the Senate. The bill makes technical, procedural, and conforming changes to state procurement law. It makes changes related to the use of eMaryland Marketplace. The bill also transfers authority for reviewing pricing of commodities sold by Maryland Correctional Enterprises. There are two amendments. Amendment number 1 makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 conforms the bill to Senate Bill 461, restoring technical corrections pertaining to DO-IT's role in procurement. Move the adoption of the amendments and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 723 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. All right, we've got another, my favorite out of judicial proceedings, the 2-bill consent calendar. Number 40, clerk will read the bills, or the calendar.
Report of the Committee on Judicial Proceedings, report number 40, consent calendar 18.
Chair recognizes Chair of the committee.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Move for adoption of the concurrence. All these bills passed unanimously on the floor. They're direct cross files. They're in the same posture as the Senate.
All right, the floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report on the consent calendar. Are there any bills that senators wish to vote separately? If not, all in favor of all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted, and the bills on consent calendar number 18 are ordered passed for third reading. Here we go. Let's go to calendar 41. Clerk will read the calendar.
Report of the Committee on Judicial Proceedings, report number 41, consent calendar 20.
Chair recognizes Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd move favorable on the consent calendar. All of these House bills are in the same posture as their Senate cross file, which passed unanimously. I'd pause to have people take a look and pull out whatever they want if they want.
All right, the floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report on all bills for consent calendar 20. We've got 10 bills here on the consent calendar. Any bills that senators wish to dispose of separately? If not, are there any objections to the report? Seeing none, seeing none, the favorable committee report for House bills on consent calendar number 20 out of JPR are adopted, and the bills are ordered passed for third reading. We've got another one. Calendar 42. Clerk will read the calendar.
Report of the Committee on Judicial Proceedings, report number 42, consent calendar 19.
Chair recognizes Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move favorable on the consent calendar. These are direct cross files of the Senate versions that pass unanimously off the Senate floor and through the Judicial Proceedings Committee.
All right, floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report for the bills on the calendar. Any bills that senators wish to dispose of separately? If not, are there any objections to the adoption of the report? Seeing none, favorable committee report is adopted for House bills on consent calendar 19, and the bills are ordered passed to third reading. We've got a Senate bill. This is report number 44 out of judicial proceedings. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 319, Senator McCray, Public Safety, Maryland Swimming Pool and Spa Standards Adoption, favorable with one amendment.
Chair recognizes Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's one amendment, and that conforms this to House Bill 303, which we passed out of here. I think it's on second reader or third reader right now. As a reminder, this bill requires the Maryland Department of Labor to adopt by regulation the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code. It also charges MDL to maintain an informational database with specified information at the pool and spa standards and electrical code standards in the state, and they must provide the funding to make that happen. I'd move for the adoption of the favorable committee report and the one amendment.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment, the favorable committee report. On the amendment, Chair recognizes Senator from the 38th District.
Would this be the time to offer an amendment?
Not quite yet. We'll take up the committee amendment. Any discussion on the committee amendment? Any objections to the committee amendment? Seeing no objections, the committee amendment is adopted. Question now is the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections to the report? Seeing none, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Chair recognizes the Senator from the 38th District has an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I want to thank the Senate bill sponsor for working with me.
All right, let's just get it loaded up quickly here, Senator. Just give us one moment. Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. The purpose of this amendment is to give our local jurisdictions more flexibility. As way of background, Ocean City and the surrounding Worcester County enjoys an exceptional number of impacted commercial pools and spas, including those facilities located at condominiums and hotels. Many of you may have stayed there. Also, as way of background, since 2014, we've had a group in Ocean City of pool operators, local health department officials, working with the Maryland State Department of Health, and they have worked on pool regulations since that time. And as I mentioned, it's been a good cross-section, and they have agreed on consensus with regulations that work for our area. It's worked very well, and so we are looking with SB 319, we're looking to, I believe my amendments are to the House bill. I'm just catching is that?
That is a good catch.
Okay.
And
I
we have that one on a
apologize.
different calendar. So what we're going to do is we'll withdraw that amendment. If the senators would be willing to withdraw the amendment,
Okay.
then but we don't have anything on it. We can reconsider the vote by which the passed on the favorable report, and then we can special order it until after. If we want to request this amendment for the Senate bill, we can move it to after the House bill if this is accepted.
Okay. I'm not
Let's
sure I
sorry,
understand the process. I'm
let-
sorry, and
no
I
worries, no
apologize.
worries.
I
No,
just
no,
realized.
No, I should have caught it too.
So, yes.
Is the House bill, do we know where the House bill is?
I'm sorry, I
I
thought the
think
House
I
bill
was
was
going to ask
first.
for that clarification. I think the House bill is on third reader,
I think
for
it-
third reader now, which
I-
can be amended on third reader, it's fine. but-
Right. So we will do this. If the senator will withdraw the amendment and request the amendment to the Senate bill,
I apologize.
That's
I
okay.
withdraw this amendment and request
Okay.
that this,
so we're going to withdraw the amendment. Let's check with the chairman really quickly here on the
and go to the
procedure.
House bill.
I know that I was going to argue against this amendment. I know there was another amendment that we may have considered, but since we're here now, yeah.
Okay. So actually, the amendment doesn't have to be withdrawn because it's out of order. It's strong to the wrong
Understood.
bill. Right. So let's see what we want to do here. I think we are where we are. Let's see. So we don't have an amendment before us, and a senator would be, the only option for the senator would be to special order the bill. It sounds like the chair would like to move the bill along, so
So I'll offer my amendment on the House bill.
I think that's probably the best option.
Okay, I apologize.
No worries. We're at that time of year. We're all doing the best we can to figure out the moving pieces. So, all right, if there are no amendments to the Senate bill, we will go ahead and order SB 319 printed for third reader. Let's go to the next judicial proceedings calendar, which is report number 45. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 785, Delegate Lewis, Baltimore City District Court Jobs Court Pilot Program, favorable with 2 amendments.
All right. Chair recognizes Senator from 44th District as the floor leader.
Thank you very much. As amended, this bill establishes the Job Courts Pilot Program in the District Court sitting in Baltimore City. The purpose of the pilot program is to reduce recidivism by offering defendants an opportunity to participate in the full-time job training and job placement program as a condition of probation, an alternative to incarceration, or a condition of pretrial release. From fiscal 2024 through 2028, the governor must include in the annual state budget an appropriation of at least $500,000 to the Baltimore Workforce Development Board to be distributed to local workforce investment boards or other nonprofit entities that participate in the pilot program by identifying employers and training programs. The amended bill also authorizes Maryland Judiciary to transfer up to $12 million from the general fund to the Circuit Court Real Property Records Improvement Fund. The provisions related to the mandated appropriation takes effect on July 1, 2022, while a provision related to the pilot program takes effect July 1, 2023, and terminates June 30th, 2028. Otherwise, the bill takes effect on June 1, 2022. There are two committee amendments. The first is technical. The second authorizes the transfer of funds by the judiciary as specified, alters the effective date, and makes conforming changes. Mr. President, I move the two amendments in the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the two committee amendments in the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the two committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 785 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. All right, that does it for JPR's second readers for now. Let's take a quick pause and would like to recognize the majority leader who has a little presentation for us.
Short, I promise.
Oh, no, it's fine. Please, no, don't rush it.
Mr. President, today we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Women's Caucus of Maryland. And there's a little history in how the Women's Caucus got started. There was a delegate by the name of Pauline Menace, who was here when I was here. She was probably here when many. And Pauline took it on to get a women's bathroom in the House of Delegates office building, which there never was before. So, chamber. Okay, fine. And she was offered the position of chair of the bathroom committee and was given a fur-lined toilet seat by Speaker Lowe to mark the momentous occasion. That was the beginning of the Women's Caucus. She used the opportunity of the offensive joke to utilize the power given to chairpersons of committee to advocate for leadership positions for women. So this year we've got a new list of women who are the new officers, and I'd really like to stress there was a little bit of controversy this year with the Women's Caucus, and for 50 years it has been a bipartisan women's group that has looked at all the different issues that women deal with, and I think it's been a very powerful source or force here in the legislature. I can remember one time over in the House where we all got up and walked out together, and it made quite a stir, and so we have a good history with our women. Over the years, the caucus has led efforts to pass legislation to give women the resources they need to achieve an exceptional education, advance in the workplace, take care of their families, and enjoy a positive quality of life in our state. We have led the fight to protect victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking, and move forward greater parity in juvenile services for girls. We have a new slate of officers for this coming year that I'd like to announce. Delegate Leslie Lopez, representing Montgomery County's District 39, will serve as the president of the Women's Legislators as it enters into the next 50 years. We have Delegate Edith Patterson is the president-elect. Delegate Nicole Williams is the first vice president. Second vice president is Delegate Heather Bagnall. Secretary is Delegate Dana Jones. Treasurer, Delegate Pamela Queen. First member at large, Senator Nancy King. And second member at large, Delegate Michelle Guyton. So congratulations to our women, and onward and upward.
Onward and upward. Well said. Thank you very much for that. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th District.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'd just like a point of personal privilege to dovetail with my colleague from Montgomery County, because there were many significant accomplishments. When I first worked with Delegate Pauline Menace, we started drug courts, and it was a lot of the women's effort that participated in that as well. At that time, we didn't have very many women judges, and it was because the Women's Caucus, the women legislators, met regularly with women of the bar to be able to make that a reality. We didn't have many women presidents of our colleges and universities. and we've been able to achieve that. We had minimal or no women lobbyists, if you recall, and now that has changed dramatically. So we've almost kind of worked ourselves out of a lot of projects because of how much has been accomplished in actually very few years when you think about it. So the Women's Caucus has been very effective through the years. It is a very bittersweet time this year because we have consistently worked together, and I'm hopeful that we will take a little break and be able to resume that very strong effort in the future. And we appreciate all of the women and all of the men who've supported us in that effort. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well said, Senator. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's been a really remarkable, first one in the country, right? Is that correct? That was created? It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Crazy story how, but such is the case. Yes, Chair recognizes Senator from College Park.
Yeah, if I might just add to this, she was my colleague and mentor. I served with her in the House of Delegates for 11 years, sat next to her on the floor of the House of Delegates. And many of the things that all of us observed about, permission to use the senator's name?
Senator may proceed.
About Senator Kelly reminded me of Delegate Menace. She traveled all over the country, and when she went to meetings, she worked. She came back with lots of great ideas, put them in legislation, and she spread the gospel of women's caucuses around the country. She was a wonderful, wonderful human being.
Wow.
And I appreciate the majority leader recognizing her role.
Wonderful. Excellent. All right. Very good. Very good. All right. Any other things while we're in the midst of a little pause? Yes, Chair recognizes the Chair of Finance.
So long as we're talking about a women's caucus, they used to have an endorsement process for judges. And that's something that's needed to be returned. I used to chair that effort. And they made a lot of difference, and we need to do that again.
Thank you for that, Senator. Thank you. Just like that Morgan debate team. All right. Let's go to Education, Health, Environmental Affairs. We've got report number 65. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 660, Delegate Guyton, commissions to study the Division of Rehabilitation Services, Student Job Training Reformation Act, favorable with one amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator from District 12.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 660 establishes a commission to study the Maryland State Department of Education's Division of Rehabilitation Services, or DORS. The bill specifies the commission membership, who must chair the commission, and DORS must staff the commission. The commission must evaluate and make recommendations on specified subjects related to improvements at DORS programs and services. The commission must meet at least 5 times between June 1st of this year and December 15th. The commission must report its findings to the Governor and the General Assembly by December 15th of this year. The bill takes effect June 1st this year, remains in effect until June 30th next year. There's one committee amendment. The amendment alters the membership of the commission by removing 2 DORS employees, adding a representative of the Department of Disabilities, and authorizing the commission to elect the chair from among its membership. Move the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. On the favorable committee report as amended, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 660 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 664, Delegate Guyton, Child Care Programs, Maryland Infants and Toddlers Program, Information and Assistance, favorable.
Recognizing the Senator from District 12.
House Bill 664, beginning in July 1st, 2023, a child care program to make information regarding infants and toddlers programs available to the parent or guardian of each child younger than age 3 at least annually. On the request of a parent or guardian, a child care program must assist with scheduling a time and convenient location for the local lead agency to provide the appropriate screening. The Maryland State Department of Education must provide each child care program with information about the infants and toddlers program sufficient for the child care program to carry out the requirements of the bill, including local lead agency contact information. The bill takes effect July 1st, 2022. There are no committee amendments. It is unanimous in committee. Move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections with the report? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 664 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 667, Harford County Delegation, Harford County Alcoholic Beverages, Class B beer, wine, and liquor licenses, restaurants, favorable with one amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator from Anne Arundel as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a local Harford County alcohol bill. It repeals the 6-month requirement that they have to be in operation before they apply for a Class B. There was one amendment. It moved the effective date to July 1st, 2023. I move the amendment and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report on the amendment. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. On the favorable committee report as amended, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments, further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 667 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 812, Montgomery County Delegation, Montgomery County Board of Education, Data Disaggregation Policy and Racial Disparity Comparisons, favorable.
Mr.
Chair
President.
recognizes Senator from Vice Chair as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. As colleagues hopefully know, Montgomery County is becoming more and more of a melting pot. People come from around the world to live here, and we need data. Our county school systems should learn about the languages, the ethnicities, and that is what is required by this. There is no fiscal note, there's no amendment. Move the adoption of the favorable report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 812 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 966, Delegate Solomon, Higher Education, Academic Credit for Prior Learning Examinations, Policies, and Procedures, favorable.
966, 966. Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 966 requires by October 1, 2022, each public institution of higher education to develop and implement policies and procedures for awarding academic credit for prior learning examinations. Unless the institution provides evidence that a higher score is necessary, an institution must award academic credit for a specified minimum score on a specified examination. The policies and procedures must indicate the manner in which academic credit will be awarded, include procedures related to the transfer of academic credits away from prior learning examinations to another public institution of higher education. Each public institution in the Maryland Higher Education Commission must post the policies and procedures. There are no committee amendments. Fiscal impact is a minimal, and I move for adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 966 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 995, Delegate Solomon, Early Childhood Development Child Care Scholarship Program alterations, favorable with two amendments.
995. Chair recognizes Senator from Baltimore City as no. 995. Nope. Chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. As amended, the bill requires the State Department of Education to establish a process for granting presumptive eligibility for subsidy under the Child Care Scholarship and establishes the requirements for MSDE and the comptroller process and distribute payments within a specified time frame. There are two amendments. First one is technical. The second one establishes a program presumptive eligibility fund from which payments may be made presumptive eligibility, prevent commingling of federal funds and state matching funds. It prohibits the comptroller from seeking reimbursement of a subsidy from certain individuals, except for cases of fraud or suspected fraud, and it requires the governor to make a mandatory appropriation annually beginning in 2024 of a specified amount. Move adoption of the two committee amendments and a favorable report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the two committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the two committee amendments are adopted. On the favorable report as amended, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 995 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1050, Prince George's County Delegation, Prince George's County Alcoholic Beverages Licenses Limits. Favorable.
Chair recognizes the Senator from Anne Arundel as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a local Prince George's alcohol bill. It simply increases the alcohol licenses by 30 for a Class B license. I move the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the committee as an amendment.
Thank you. Member of the Prince George delegation.
Prince George, yes, Senator from Prince George's.
I have an amendment.
All right.
This is an amendment that the Prince George delegation has discussed, and the chair can speak to the action on it, which was supportive. Essentially, we have a few liquor license holders who missed the April 1st deadline to re-up. And the way it normally works is that if you're going to be late, they'll give you a 60-day extension, but you got to pay $1,000. And so what this bill does is says for those who missed it anyway, if they get re-registered by May 1st and pay the $1,000, they can keep their liquor license. Move the amendment.
Senator moves the amendment. Let's hear from the floor leader.
We knew about this amendment and considered it favorable.
All right. Is that a rubber band? Okay. All right. Are there any objections to the amendment? Without objection, the one committee amendment, the floor amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1050 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1201, Delegate Jacobs, Water Pollution, Oyster Repletion, Supplemental Environmental Projects, favorable.
Chair recognizes the Senator from the 38th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're going to go from pools to oysters now. So this bill, House Bill 1201, requires the Maryland Department of the Environment to prioritize specified supplemental environmental projects, called SEPs, involving oyster repletion for specified water pollution violations in proximity of an oyster population. And it would include oyster repletion projects in the SEPs, which is the Supplemental Environmental Projects, database, which is required by Senate Bill 90 and House Bill 595 of 2022 if one or both of these bills take effect. There are no committee amendments, and I move for a favorable report on House Bill 1201.
All right. Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections to the report? No objection. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1201 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Let's go to stick with Education, Health, Environmental Affairs. Report 66.
House Bill 784, Delegate Stein, Department of Natural Resources, Irreplaceable Natural Areas Program, Establishment, favorable.
Chair recognizes the Senator from District 12.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 784 establishes an Irreplaceable Natural Areas Program in the Department of Natural Resources to preserve Maryland's native biodiversity for current and future residents of the state. By July 1st of next year, the department must adopt regulations to carry out the program, including regulations that, number 1, designate irreplaceable natural areas in state-owned land managed by the department, number 2, establishing management objectives for irreplaceable natural areas, including a map depicting boundaries for each area, a description of the unique features and threats for each area, and compatible and incompatible activities for each area. There are no committee amendments. This is unanimous in committee. Move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 784 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 884, Delegate Gilchrist, State Conservation Land, Old Growth Forest Management, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 884 requires the Department of Natural Resources, whenever it identifies an old growth forest on specified state conservation land, to manage the land in a manner that prohibits logging. There are 2 amendments. First one is technical. The second one adds natural resource management areas and also explains that the bill may not be interpreted to prohibit the department from from taking action to protect old-growth forests from certain hazards like fire, insects, and disease. Move adoption of the 2 committee amendments. Favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of 2 committee amendments in the favorable committee report. Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th district has an amendment.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
sorry, on the amendments. On the amendments.
Yeah, just if the floor leader could yield for, chairman could yield for some questions on this one.
Senator may proceed.
Thank you. So I saw there was some opposition in this, mainly from, I guess, the logging industry. And I mean, it appears that their opposition is that it's tough to say how, how old these trees are, or that what is an old growth forest? Like, if that's their problem, how do we define an old growth forest? And then we're just not going to log those at all. How are we going to? I mean, it's a renewable resource, and it seems like we want to use renewable resources. This is wood is that great renewable resource. So, was consideration given to how we're going to continue to use our available natural resources, our lumber resources, if we're going to continue to block all these off?
Yeah, 2 things, Senator. First of all, there is a definition in the bill on page 2, which is the definition DNR uses. That's number 1. Number 2, it's been reported that this bill will cover approximately 410, 420 acres, which is 1/10 of 1% of all the acreage under state management. So it's a very small number. But old growth forests are something that's slowly being lost, and we want to ensure that old growth forests, which have trees that have been there 30, 40, 50 years, remain. And some will die at their own accord, obviously. But these are so designated, and they're actually only in 2 categories, which are state parks, wild management areas, and then we just added natural resource areas, but they also have to be designated as old growth. So it's a very limited number of acreage. And we do say that if there are hazards, DNR can come in and take care of that.
But isn't the definition? It seems like you want to harvest big trees, not little trees, and let the little trees eventually. Eventually all of our forests become old growth forests, hopefully, and that's when you would normally lumber them. Isn't that how it works?
Well, not necessarily. Again, it's not my expertise. Some of these are the 30 and 50 and 70 year. There's a range between when they're obviously small saplings, and again, there are people here who are much more expert than I am, but there's an age range when they can be cut and used for board and everything else. But the very old growth, it's like I said, it's 1/10 of 1%. We don't think it's going to affect their ability to log and make money or regenerate those wooded forests. So a number of organizations that work with tree and forestry, I think we need to protect them, that they have a lot of effect on the ecosystem, and we want to protect them. So taking out 1/10 of 1% out of all of the acreage, we think is a minimal cost.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Chair recognizes the senator from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a question for the floor leader, if he would yield.
Pure so, senator may proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I know a little bit about forests, enough to know that they're not all created equal. Was there committee testimony to suggest that old growth forests have a greater ecological benefit or value to our communities, and that's why we're specifically protecting them in this bill?
I believe so.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right. As a reminder, senator wants to make an argument. Make an argument. If we have a question, right. All right. On the amendments, any further discussion? If not, any objections to the amendments? Without objection, the 2 amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 884 is hereby ordered passed for 3rd reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 968, Delegate Kipke, Health Occupations, Dental Assistance, Certification and Regulation, favorable with 1 amendment.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd District as a floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 968 has to do with expanded function dental assistance. Today in your dentist's office, you have a person who sits next to the dentist who does routine type of assistance does not need to be certified or licensed. This allows an expanded function dental assistant to do 4 additional critical functions not done by dental hygienists or any other, or it can be done by a full dentist. It's designed to expand the efficiency of the office. There was one committee amendment that clarifies the scope of what's called coronal polishing that an expanded function dental assistant may perform. This is to help identify specifically the scope of practice is so different than dental hygienists. And all the parties have agreed that this is an appropriate bill. Move the amendment and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report on the amendment. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. On the amended report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 968 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. All right, let's Education, Health, Environmental Affairs, Report 69. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 862, Delegate Feldmark. Election law, ballot canvassing, multiple ballots cast by an individual. Favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to flag for colleagues, this has significant amendments, and as amended is going to be identical to Senate Bill 163 that just passed the House floor a few minutes ago. This has kind of 5 parts to it. First off is curing, and that is the process, and I'm just going to go over this super fast, is if someone neglects to sign their ballot envelope, this gives them a chance to correct that. It starts canvassing 8 days before the start of early voting, which is what this body has voted for and which Maryland Association of Election Officials has requested. It requires that there be precinct reporting data of election results, which stopped briefly, and we are restarting and making that clear. It requires that tabulation, and this body has had a lot of questions about tabulation. Tabulation is going to be allowed in the primary this year, but that's it. We negotiated, they will not be able to tabulate, so they will be able to open the ballots, they will be able to scan the ballots, but that's it. They will not be able to tabulate, and then obviously, as is current law, they will not be able to release any election results until after the polls close. This is going to help us get our election results back more quickly, especially with the delayed primary, so that our local boards of elections can get the ballots out to our military folks serving abroad, to people who are in school, out of town, and all that. So they have a lot of work to do between the primary and general, and this will make sure that we get the data, the election results. The last thing is that it also indicates what this bill came in as is which bill to count. And it's going to be basically the first ballot that is allowed to be counted, that is complete and can be canvassed, will be the one that is processed and counted. And with that, the 2 amendments, one is technical, and amendment number 2 does exactly what I have just described. So I move the 2 committee amendments and the favorable report.
All right, floor leader has moved for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Chair recognizes the minority whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just asked that the bill and the amendment lie over under the rule.
The senator's motion is in order. This is the first request, so it's for an hour after the 3rd reading calendar, and the bill and the amendment will lie over under the rule. All right, let's pull up calendar 67 from Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 1163, Delegate Washington, Primary and Secondary Education, Virtual Education Requirements, favorable with 7 amendments.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Some weeks ago, we passed a bill out of the Chamber, Senate bill, setting up some guardrails and positing how we would like to see virtual schools post-pandemic. There was a separate bill, not a cross-file, in the House that dealt with virtual schools, but most of the focus was on running virtual schools during a pandemic, during an emergency period. You may also remember that we passed Senate Bill 717 that allowed, in unique circumstances, virtual schooling to be used when you ran out of snow days. That was 717. The bill before you has basically turned the House bill and the Senate bill into a cross file. So the Senate bill has been amended, and the House bill, which I'll explain in a minute, has also been amended to where they are identical and they are cross files. So they've amalgamated all three bills into one bill. So in other words, HB 1163 includes 95% of the language that was passed in the Senate Bill 362 that we passed a couple of weeks ago, that set up a framework for virtual schools, just like we have a framework for charter schools. It also includes new language that's been amended on, heaven forbid, but if we go back into a extended emergency and there's an executive order of how the virtual schooling should be set up and the plans that should be developed by the 24 jurisdictions. And finally, it rolls in Senate Bill 717, which allows virtual schooling in those jurisdictions that have run out of snow days. So that's the framework, Mr. President. As amended, it establishes requirements for virtual education days, alters requirements for virtual schools, and requires county boards to adopt virtual education plans. Essentially what it says is if the governor promulgates an executive order of an emergency situation like we witnessed over the last couple of years, each jurisdiction must have a virtual school plan that is presented to the State Department and hopefully approved quickly so they can have a routine and hopefully learn any lessons, positive ones and negative ones, from the activities over the last 2 years. The bill also establishes requirements related to teacher training related to virtual education, and it also addresses the mitigating effects of learning loss and expanding computer and internet security infrastructure for virtual education. There are 7 amendments, as you mentioned, Mr. President. First one is technical. Second one requires a teacher preparation program to include the training for certain skills and techniques for teaching virtual learning, which I think we all learned people were not ready for. Amendment 3 authorized county boards to provide virtual education days to students instead of closing schools. As I mentioned, that was Senate Bill 717. Amendment 4 alters the dates by which the department must establish a statewide learning management system. Almost every jurisdiction has created a platform for virtual learning that they ended up using, and there are 2 or 3 national ones that have been used by and large. The bill calls for the state to also develop one as a default if people want to roll into a state system where the state can offer support. The Amendment 4 also strikes provisions relating to virtual learning opportunities that was originally in the House version. 3 more amendments. Amendment 5 alters the requirements for virtual schools using the provisions of 362. So essentially it rolls in what we passed on this floor a number of weeks ago. It also clarifies, because this came up, that multiple counties under written agreement may sponsor a virtual school. It also repeals the department's authority to sponsor a virtual school. It requires the State Board of Education to grant final approval, so it will go to the state superintendent, and then the final decision goes to the state board. It makes some minor changes to requiring a lottery admission when more people apply to a virtual school in a jurisdiction than there are seats. It encourages, because we want people to know what they're getting into. Some people don't realize how a virtual school works and the implications. So we are calling for an in-person if possible, and if not, a virtual orientation, so people know what they're getting involved in, both students and parents, as well as what wraparound services are available, even though they're taking the classes from home. Amendment 6, almost done, alters the provisions relating to temporary virtual schools by reorganizing sections. And again, this was amending the House bills that originally came in. It requires the county board to adopt virtual education plans during a prolonged state of emergency, again, as we experienced over the last couple of years. It provides what components should be in that virtual plan and strikes provisions relating to virtual courses. That will remain as it is. When there's a unique course needed in Asian studies or Chinese or advanced physics, there's a process in place for that to be approved and proceeded with. Finally, Amendment 7 requires the state superintendent to report on the appropriate balance of synchronous versus asynchronous learning. It authorizes virtual schools approved before a certain date to continue operating to the 23-24 school year, subject to certain accountability. It requires the department to study best practices of virtual education and prohibits the approval of a new elementary grade band until the report is done. Mr. President, I would move the 7 amendments in the favorable report, and we are hoping that the same bill moves with those amendments on the other chamber.
All right. The chairman moved that we accept the 7 committee amendments and the favorable committee report on the amendments.
Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th, followed by the senator from the 21st.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Floor Leader, could you continue to yield for a question?
Senator may proceed.
Going back to the last section that you talked about, again dealt with the area that we were concerned about with the consortium. What has changed now in this bill from the last one?
Nothing.
So you said they could still operate subject to accountability?
To 23-24, if they remain in the same posture, if they become accountable to the guardrails and framework of this bill, they can remain.
The consortium can continue subject to performance?
No, they can remain if they fulfill all the obligations of House Bill 1163 and ultimately Senate Bill 362. Nothing has changed from what we voted on 3 weeks ago.
Okay, but one of the conditions of this bill is that it changed to a not-for-profit then?
Or Dorchester County or Somerset County can host it like they did during the pandemic.
Right, but during the pandemic, did they host it for the entire consortium, all 9 counties that are involved in this, or did they just...
No. All I'm saying is every jurisdiction on the Eastern Shore created a platform for thousands of students, and we allow a consortium of counties to come together and create one virtual school if there's an economy of scale question. And they can either have one of the host counties be the platform and the host, or they can hire a nonprofit.
Okay, so that was my question. Regardless of how well they perform, regardless of what their outcomes are, regardless of whether it is the right program for a number of different counties, if they are a for-profit, they can only operate for another 18 months.
Correct, unless they transform.
Strictly because they're a for-profit. That's what this is boiled down. I mean, I just want to make sure I understand, because that's strictly the reason.
Just like in the charter school law, we do not allow for-profit institutions to own or operate, nor am I aware of any school in the whole state, in your jurisdiction, in my jurisdiction, in Montgomery County, in Frederick County, that a school board has approved giving over one of their schools to be owned or run by a for-profit. This makes it comparable.
Well, it's a very different manner of teaching. I mean, we're talking about virtually teaching.
And I would say, you're absolutely right, it is a different manner of teaching. In these schools, they guaranteed 20% synchronous learning. That means 80% of the time, they're on their own. These teachers...
That sounds similar to what we saw during the pandemic.
Floor, you asked me a question.
All right, Senator,
these teachers are not employed by the local county. They don't know the kids. They have no investment. They could be in Minneapolis, North Dakota, or Iowa. All they have to do is be certified in Maryland. They can teach 2 courses. They can be working 3 other jobs. They might not know that kid from Adam or Eve or their brothers or sisters. And so the model, we believe, lends itself to putting profit before these children. And that's why there are no other schools like this in the whole state of Maryland.
All right, so we're back to accountability doesn't matter, results don't matter. As long as you follow the guidelines, who cares if the kids can...
They're the worst performing school currently.
Now I was talking that time, Mr. Chair.
I apologize.
All right, but I mean, my point being, I think many of us are much more concerned with the results, with the literacy of kids when they get out of our school system, and that, in my opinion, should be more important than whether a consortium receives a profit or not, and whether their teachers are in a different area. Because if it's virtual learning, we've seen many different programs during the pandemic, and I don't think there was conversations about how synchronous one was or not synchronous another one was. It was something that was put in place to get these kids educated during the pandemic. Now some of these ideas are still continuing to work, and in an area where we have 9 different school systems trying to make something work, it's not economical for each one to have its own system. A consortium works in an area that has very few students that are going to use that. And just because it's a for-profit doesn't seem to be the one condition that would make this consortium have to go away. And that's what we are at. It's for-profit.
Senator, this is not about a consortium. We have explicit language that allows for consortium. The state superintendent reported to the State Board of Education that schools that use these type of teachers and this type of asynchronous learning have the worst results in the state and on the Eastern Shore. And the problem is, if we allow this to go on before a year or two, those children are going to come back to our traditional public schools, and those public schools are going to have to make up the difference and all the learning loss that has taken place.
Well, we may disagree about the performance of our current public schools, so I'm not sure that they're going to come back any worse than what a lot of our school systems are putting out right now. So with all due respect to that, at the end of the day, this is saying simply because they're a for-profit, all of the other accountability issues that you talked about, even though you use them as the rationale for this, where they're from, who they're certified by, all that kind of stuff, really doesn't matter, because if they are for-profit, they're out.
Senator, they are underperforming every other comparable school on the Eastern Shore.
That's not accurate.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th District.
Mr. President, just a point of clarification. We've heard repeatedly about how poorly this program is operating, and I would just like to present the reality of it. Yes, there is a for-profit group that is working to provide part of that virtual learning, but there are also support people working with those students on the ground in each of the areas with those students. And it's that wraparound program that was negotiated to work through this. And in fact, the performance has improved since that initial program started. So yes, they are making progress, but I guess my concern is I believe there's been a little bit of not accurate representation of how the program works. So just a point of clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 21st District.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I do have one or two friendly questions for the chair.
Senator may proceed.
I want to start by just saying I appreciate the chair's in two ways. One is working with me on some amendments, both earlier on and in this version of the bill. Secondly, I think the committee did a good job taking the best from the House bill and keeping the best from the House bill. There are improvements from the House, and I think that's terrific. I did want to clarify in the amended bill. Let me see if I'm going to say what I think it is, and then if you could say I'm accurate or not. What I think it says is that local school systems can continue to create and operate online schools, except for pre-K and kindergarten, I think. Is that a fair description?
Senator, would you repeat that, just so I'm clear?
Under this bill, local school systems could continue to offer online schools except at the pre-K and K level. It bars that, right?
There's an amendment that was adopted.
Okay.
First of all, the ones that are in place and fulfill the obligations obviously continue.
Okay.
If
Indefinitely?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay,
unless
thank
they underperform.
I understand.
Or they don't follow the dictates of the bill. If new ones want to, if Howard County, for example, or Anne Arundel County wants to create one, they go to the state, they say, we want to create another virtual school. Anne Arundel has probably the best performing one. They go, they get a number, They lay out the details, how they're going to fulfill it. State superintendent takes the first cut at it, and then the state board approves it. We did say, as you said, pre-K and kindergarten are restricted. Out of a compromise with the House, there were concerns about children at a young age. So new elementary schools are put on hold until a report comes back. So next year, new middle schools, new high schools can continue, but no new elementary. But the ones that are in existence can continue. So
Okay.
they're on hold until this report comes back.
Okay, thank you. Second question is, I think the bill as it passed the Senate allowed the state to come up with a virtual school. Is that correct?
It did.
And the bill as amended would not allow the state to do it. Is that correct?
Correct.
What's the rationale? I mean, isn't more good schools better than fewer good schools?
That was debated among the informal conversation. It came up again in our committee, and I think it's an issue we can take up again next year. And it was a compromise.
Fair enough.
And,
Okay.
and for now, you know, we have some parallels with charter schools. The charter school law for the state of Maryland does not give that authority to the state. But it doesn't mean if we can't take that up, it's a policy decision next year.
And I understand.
And I also don't think, I didn't get the sense from the state superintendent they're in a rush or a hurry to next year to start 5 schools. So I don't think it's going to be an obstacle. And if this is a need or demand, our committee is more than happy to take that up.
Okay, thank you. I'm not going to ask this as a question. I'm just going to make it as a statement, and you can respond to it. It just seems to me, unlike charter schools, online schools are particularly valuable across county lines, and that's why you talk about consortiums and other things. And so in that case, I think a state option would be something that would have a lot of benefits, not ruling out the local school systems, but providing different kinds of options. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And again, that was part of a compromise. I think in toto, much of what the Senate passed is at the core of this bill. And,
oh, for sure.
And I think that's an issue. I think that is an open question we can take up next year.
Well, I'll just make one more comment. There was some discussion a week or two ago about the Senate being rolled by the House. I don't think that's this situation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. On the bill, or excuse me, on the amendments. Chair recognizes the senator from District 10.
I just had a follow-up question, Mr. Chair, based on your response to...
It can't be a tough one after the words this morning, Madam Chair.
When you say that the online school is okay, can you, what would okay consist of? How are you going to determine it? I keep wondering about kids who live where there is no broadband. I know in northern Baltimore County there's none, in large parts of Baltimore City there's none. So while you guys next year are figuring out where you're going to have them, make sure you're going to do something about getting the infrastructure, or else if that's going to be your new apex, we don't want to leave some kids behind.
Yeah, and if that's an isn't that so question, I agree with you, and we try to cover that as much to ensure all the software and hardware is available. Ladies and gentlemen, we have no idea how strong or large the demand will be for this. We know many of our constituents wanted to get the kids back to school ASAP so they can interact with other people, they can see their teacher close up. And unfortunately, during those 2 years, the results were extremely dismal. And there are a lot of reasons for that. And hopefully, if there are virtual schools in the future, we'll learn from those lessons. So we don't know if there are going to be 5 more or 30 more. We just don't know. And I think people across the state will probably vote with their feet and decide if they want to go back to their local traditional bricks and mortar school or whether they choose this alternative approach.
All right. Senator may proceed.
Yeah, one additional thing in terms of infrastructure is that the parents have to be able to afford the internet or whatever will replace it. And we've got large pockets in many counties where they are not able. You also have to consider if the parents are essential workers, they very well may not be at home to assist their kids. So we got to think about all of that while you're putting the plan together.
All right, on the amendments, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 7 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1163 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Report number 68. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 118, Delegate Washington, Public Schools, Student Attendance, Excused Absences for Mental Health Needs, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. HB 118 deals with excuse absences for mental health needs. As amended, the bill requires the State Department and each county board to adopt an attendance policy that treats absence due to a student's behavioral needs the same as an absence due to illness or other semantic health needs. Public schools are required to provide certain information to a student or the student's parent or guardian if the extended absence was due to a behavioral health need. We want to help these young people if they are under severe pressure, emotional strain. There are 2 amendments. The first one makes technical changes to the title of the bill, and the second one strikes the bill as written and requires the department of each county to adopt an attendance policy, which most already have, and treat student absences due to physical illness and a behavioral health need similarly. Mr. President, move adoption of the 2 committee amendments, favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Chair recognizes the minority whip on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wonder if we could special order this bill
2
for Monday.
for Monday. Let's hear from the floor leader.
Why not a layover, I guess is my question.
I mean, we got time.
Well, then special order till Saturday.
That's fine. I'll special order Saturday, Mr. President.
All right. Without objection, the bill and the amendments will be special ordered to the appropriate time on Saturday. All right. Let's do this report out of rules to get them to these bills to where they need to go. We've got report number 9.
House Bill 290, Delegate Crutchfield, Hate Crime Civil Remedy, re-referred to JPR.
Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. Madam Chair of Rules Committee, we are good to go with these bills. They were voted, presumably. Chair of Rules? Chair of Rules?
The Rules Committee did meet, and we did agree on the items that were listed.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr.
The
President.
bills will be referred to their appropriate re-referred to their appropriate standing committee. We have a resolution, a House resolution from Rules. Clerk will read the bill.
House Joint Resolution 8, Delegate Resnick, Solidarity with the Government and People of Ukraine, favorable.
Apologies, this is the actual report, not a re-referral. All right, I think let's do a special order on this one for a moment so we can get, I don't think we have the floor report quite yet for this one. So Chair would move to special order the bill for 30 minutes, let's call it.
So moved, Mr. President.
All right, are there any objections? Without objection, the bill will be special ordered for 30 minutes. All right, we have a report out of finance. This is report number 48. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 158, Delegate J. Lewis, Maryland New Start Act of 2022, favorable with 1 amendment.
Let's get it up on the board here. All right. 158. Chair recognizes the chair of the committee as the floor leader.
House Bill 158 is similar to Senate Bill 554, which passed the Senate unanimously earlier this session. House Bill 158 establishes 1, the New Start grant program within the Department of Labor, and 2, the New Start microloan program within the Department of Commerce. The purpose of the grant program is to provide grants to at least 5 organizations to create or support existing entrepreneurship development programs to provide assistance to covered individuals. The microloan program provides loans to covered individuals participating in eligible entrepreneur programs funded under the New Start Grant Program. The House bill includes mandated appropriations in fiscal years 2024 through 2028 of $300,000 for the microloan programs and $200,000 for the grant programs. Amendment 1 is technical. I move the amendment and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Are there any, the question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 158 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1222, Delegate Ampry, Public Health, Baltimore City Behavioral Health Crisis Incident Review Team, favorable.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee. (1222). Chair recognizes the senator from Prince George's.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 1222 establishes the Baltimore City Behavioral Health Crisis Incident Review Team in Baltimore City to review behavioral health crisis incidents involving law enforcement in Baltimore City, identify root causes and patterns within and across public systems that result in behavioral health crises involving law enforcement, and 3, provide recommendations based on identified factors that contribute to behavioral health crises involving law enforcement for quality and performance improvements. 4, facilitate coordination and collaboration among entities involved in the behavioral health and law enforcement systems. And 5, assist in the implementation of procedural, logistical, and clinical changes to minimize the need for law enforcement involvement in behavioral health crises. The bill establishes provisions governing 1, a review team membership, 2, access to and disclosure of specified information, and 3, meetings. There are no amendments. There is no fiscal impact. There was no opposition at the committee hearing. I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Chair recognizes senator from the 34th district.
Yeah, just a question, if I could, for the full leader.
Yep.
So the term here, the behavioral health crisis involving law enforcement, well, what do we mean by that? Just not understanding this bill at all.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that for me?
Yeah, the target of the bill, behavioral health crisis involving law enforcement. What does that mean?
Okay, absolutely. So it's similar to other pieces of legislation that I've actually worked on, Senator. When a person is in a behavioral health crisis, there is a question about who we should be in touch with. And so what this bill looks to do is to look at when people are involved in that, when they're in that crisis, to make sure that it's to look at whether or not it's appropriate for a behavioral health professional to be the one that's involved versus when you have law enforcement or the police involved. So that's really what it comes down to.
Okay, so it's not behavioral health crisis caused by law enforcement. It's a behavioral health crisis
no,
that could
sir.
potentially
It's
involve
when
law
someone is
who responds to it.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Yes.
you.
No
Appreciate it,
problem.
Senator. Thank you.
Great. All right. On the report, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1222 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. All right, we have a special order. This is special order number 94. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 1380, Delegate P. Young, General Provisions, LGBTQ Veterans, Honorable Discharge, Restoration of Honor Act, favorable.
Chair recognizes the vice chair.
I'm going to buy a moment of time for my colleague from District 4 to get back to his seat and start by just really giving a shout out for the amazing words that were delivered this afternoon, earlier today, by the senator, the good senator from District 28, about LGBTQ veterans. And thank you for your service and for your commitment to ending discrimination. And now, the good senator from District 4.
All right, I believe the senator may have an amendment on the report. Let's do the report first. Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th.
Yeah, I just, question for the floor leader. So, I know currently.
Yes, for the,
No.
for the floor leader.
For the floor leader.
Senator may proceed.
Thank you. Currently, under the Veterans Administration on their web page has a tool that you log into that says, and you say, I was discharged for gender-related issues and the like, and then you make an application and they upgraded your discharge from anything less than honorable. They upgraded to honorable. So why is that not sufficient? Why do we need to do a state-level bill if the feds have already provided this online mechanism and there's no indication this isn't working? I mean, you've got just in the military, who's in service now. They're not discharging people. So what are we trying to get at that the federal system doesn't already satisfy?
I think, thank you for the question, Senator. I think there are two explanations. One is, I think in the General Assembly, we're committed to trying to make government work better for our residents, for those especially who have served our country. And rather than needing to try to find a website, go to it, if they've got a computer, if they've got Wi-Fi access, if they hear about the opportunity to do this, it just seems like let's do it in one fell swoop, which leads to the second thing, which is, I think, respect and an implied apology.
So this doesn't, all this does is qualify you for some state benefits, but any veteran who wants to upgrade isn't looking at the state remedy. Your real benefits are coming under the federal system. So if you have any inclination to change your status, you would go to the federal system. They're giving 95% of the benefits, and you're saying, well, they might not want to get 95% of the benefits. They're just going to skip all that federal stuff, and they're going to address it the 5% on the state level, which seems sort of ludicrous to me.
Well, as you know, Senator, this body can't make federal legislation. We can do what we can at the state level, and I'm sure that Secretary Owings and his department at the state level will be working to continue to work to educate veterans around the state as to their rights and opportunities.
Okay,
and so
thank you. I
think
just
that
speak on the report if I
On the
could, Mr.
report,
President.
Senator may proceed.
So, I mean, look, on the federal side, they didn't legalize marijuana. So we acted at the state level to change that. But in this particular instance, the feds have responded. They've responded very effectively. They're way ahead of us, light year ahead of us on this. They've got a remedy. My problem with the bill is that in the military services, sex has a really different kind of an issue, because when you're deploying people, you have an infantry unit. You're going to deploy one battalion over, and then you leave the other two battalions on the post. These people are all friends. Well, if the people who were left on post start picking off the spouses who were left there, you utterly demoralize morale. You destroy morale. This bill would say, hey, that was consensual. In the military, they say, no, that guy was deployed. You went from your unit over, and you had sex with his spouse. You've just destroyed morale. You know, the guys who were in the field, you're supposed to treat them, the guys and gals who've been deployed, you treat them a little bit special. The other thing so that's a big frown on. The other part is fraternization. If you're a colonel and you start having sexual relations with a private, that's a huge no-no, even though that was consensual. That was consensual sex, and this says, well, in Maryland, we're going to say that's okay. The other thing, I mean, you all remember Aberdeen Proving Ground. You go back about 20 years ago, they had an incident where the drill sergeants there were having sex with the young recruits. Nobody said it wasn't consensual, but they were basically misusing their authority to pick favorites. Utterly destroyed morale, and in fact, it was so destructive that they pulled the entire operation out of Maryland. It was so destructive, and they felt they couldn't. It so demoralized people. We're wading into an area where, with a broad brush here, we're not just dealing, as the federal system does. The feds say, hey, you were discharged less than honorable simply because of your sexual identity or your sexual orientation. The feds have already corrected that. Now we're coming in and saying, well, wait a second, we're gonna wade into this, and if you were a commander and you had sex with your subordinate and the military told you not to do that because it undermines morale, destroys your military cohesion, we're going to say, well, Maryland thinks that's okay. Maryland thinks it's okay for drill sergeants to pick on little privates. Maryland thinks it's okay for the colonel who stayed back to have a sexual liaison with the lieutenant's wife that he just deployed forward. And this is just utterly intolerable. And it has nothing to do with sexual orientation, but it is covered by the bill. So I just have real trouble with this bill, especially we have an effective federal remedy that deals with this. It covers everything we're trying to do here, plus much, much more. And this bill is basically very destructive of legitimate military interests to maintain unit morale, military cohesion, command and control. It's just a bad bill all the way across. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. On the bill and the favorable committee report, we do have an amendment, but let's. Do you want to take up the?
Can I just speak on real quick, because I think I understand what the senator is saying for District 34. I think if rather than getting into debate, I think everybody wants to get to. I think the amendment that I'm going to offer, if we can get to this through the report, helps clarify that, keeps it to the LGBTQ veterans, and gets away from some of the other issues.
All right. So let's do this. Let's take up the report. Any further discussion? If not, any objections to the report? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Chair recognizes Senator from District 4 who has an amendment. All right. Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So what the amendment does is it says this section applies solely to veterans who were discharged for sexual orientation or gender identity. It removes the bottom language here, number 2, which talks about consensual acts and all that, because when you start getting into consensual acts, what the senator is saying for District 34 is the UCMJ gets into a lot of sexual activity that I don't think this bill wants to talk about, fraternization and other things. So this will just deal with those who are discharged who are LGBTQ or gender identity solely. And it also just simply requires a veteran to submit to the Secretary of Veterans Affairs documentation that provides the basis, which they would have that. So I hope the committee accepts it as a friendly amendment.
Chair recognizes the floor leader.
We thank the senator for giving us this amendment in advance, and do indeed think that that is clarifying and does address the issue that the gentleman from 34 raised. Thank you.
All right, so the question is on the amendment. Any objections? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Do we have any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1380 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Let's see, we've got a report number 70 from the Education, Health, Environmental Affairs. Mr. Chair, is it chair? Oh.
House Bill 1276, Delegate Attar, Baltimore City Youth Data Hub Establishment, favorable with one amendment.
Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. What this bill is a cross-file of the House version where we're establishing a Baltimore City Youth Data Club. The amendment conforms it to the Senate bill. I ask for the adoption of the committee amendment and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. On the favorable committee report as amended, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1276 is hereby ordered passed for third reader. All right, let's try and take up some of these third readers. See how much we can do. Can we ring the bells, Madam Secretary, and could we do a quorum call?
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 47 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, Senate Maryland remains in session. We'll start with the concurrence message from the House, number 27. Clerk will read the bill out of Finance.
Senate Bill 496, Senator Bidel, Business Regulation, Miscellaneous State Business Licenses, Alterations, Finance.
Chair recognizes Chair of the Committee on the House Amendments.
Thank you. Senate Bill 496, at the request of the clerks of the courts, updates, clarifies, and alters provisions of law governing miscellaneous state business licenses. The House amendment is clarifying and extends the annual deadline for selecting a uniform trader's licensing fee. We move to concur.
The chairman moves to concur with the House amendments. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objection to the House amendments? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Question, Senate Bill 496 is now again before the body on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 496, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Let's see. We've got a number 26, concurrence number 26. Oh, we went out of order. This is all Education, Health, Environmental Affairs. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 64, Senator Carrozza, Beach Erosion Control District, State and City-Owned Structures, EHE.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee on the House Amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. This exempts the repair, renovation, reconstruction, or expansion of limited structures vis-a-vis Beach Erosion Control District. The House amendments strike obsolete language, creating an exemption for a certain boardwalk widening and make technical changes. Mr. President, we would move to concur with the House amendments.
Got caught. Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 64 is now before the body yet again for third reading, final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 64, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 698, Senator Zucker, Alcoholic Beverages, Maryland Alcohol Manufacturing and Promotion, EHE.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. As amended, the House amendment makes a technical change. With the amendment, it is identical to 854 as unanimously passed by the Senate. Move to concur.
Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 698 is now before the Senate on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 698, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 744, Senator Heddleman, Housing and Community Development, Affordable Housing, Excess Real Property, EHE.
Senate Bill, Chair recognizes Chair of the Committee on the House amendments.
Yeah, Mr. President, this bill deals with the housing shortage crisis across the state. It deals with excess state property. The House made some modifying amendments. The committee voted to concur with the amendments and move this bill along.
All right, the Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 744 is now again before the Senate on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 744, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, let's go to House third reading bills number 39. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 222, Delegate Parrott, vehicle laws, driving in right-hand lanes, interstate highways in rural areas.
House Bill 222 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 222, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 303, Delegate Stein, public safety, Maryland swimming pool and spa standards adoption.
House Bill 303 is on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from the 38th District.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to proceed with the amendment that I had offered before.
And just if the senator could read the number on that one quickly to make sure. It's already been just collected.
Okay, it's HB 0303 823 825-1.
All right, Senator may proceed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. As I was explaining the background, especially with our locals on this bill overall establishes new international standards for pools and spas for new construction. And it exempts, current pools are exempt, except when they go in for repairs, additions, and alterations. That's when they would need a permit. What this amendment would do is allow the local jurisdictions, and as I described with the stakeholders group that we've had since 2014, we'd have the local government define what substantial and material change would be. That doesn't preclude the locals from adopting the international code for these additions and renovations, but allows the locals to have more flexibility. And again, a little bit of background in Ocean City and Worcester County, we have an exceptionally high number of impacted pools and spas, including those at hotels and condominiums. Some of you may have stayed there. And this group that we've had has worked with the Maryland Department of Health, with local pool operators, with the local health department official, come up with regulations that are working in our community. And so what this amendment would do was, in essence, allow the local jurisdictions to have more flexibility in working these regulations. And I would expect that maybe this would be a friendly amendment.
All right, Senator moves the amendment. Let's hear from the floor leader.
So thank you, Mr. President. I know there's another forthcoming amendment, which I would probably perceive as friendly, but this one, essentially, I mean, it changes the character of the bill. The reason for the bill is to establish a baseline for standards moving forward for new construction and if you have substantial renovations. So if you just relegate it back to what the locals define as substantial or the local regulations, you're kind of defeating the purpose of the bill. The purpose of the bill is to establish a floor for these safety regulations moving forward. So I just ask the body to reject this amendment.
I'd like to press the amendment.
All right, the question is on the amendment. Further discussion of the amendment? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. No. Noes have it. The amendment is rejected. Are there further amendments to the bill or its title? Chair recognizes the senator from the 38th District.
Yes, Mr. President. My amendment that I've worked with the Senate sponsor on.
All right, give us just a moment to get it loaded up. All right, Senator may explain the amendment.
This would allow for an extension of the implementation and compliance dates from where there are dates at June 1st and October 1st would put the effective and compliance dates at December 31st, 2022.
All right, Senator moves the amendment. Chair recognizes the floor leader.
We view this as a fair and friendly amendment.
All right, no objections to the amendment? Any? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 301 is on third reading for final passage. No further discussion. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 303, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 653, Delegate Love, Conservation Finance Act.
House Bill 653 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 653, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 813, Montgomery County Delegation, Montgomery County Speed and School Bus Monitoring Systems.
House Bill 813 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 813, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 868, Howard County Delegation, Circuit Court for Howard County, judges sitting as Orphans Court. This is a constitutional amendment.
House Bill 868 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 41 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 868, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 942, Delegate Lukey, Horse Racing, Satellite Simulcast, Betting Facilities, and Permit Holders, alterations.
House Bill 942 is on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an amendment.
Senator has an amendment. We will collect the amendment. Senator may explain the amendment.
It's just a very simple changing the effective date.
All right, Senator moves the amendment. Any objections? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments? If not, House Bill 942 is on third reader for final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 942, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1349, Delegate Henson, Education Support Professionals, Bonus and Report.
House Bill 1349 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1349, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Let's see. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1403, Delegate Pena Milnick, Maryland Department of Health Waiver Programs, Wait List and Registry Reduction in the WAIT Act.
House Bill 1403 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1403, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Let's go to report number 40. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 109, Delegate Shetty, Maryland Department of Health System for Newborn Screening Requirements.
House Bill 109 is on third reader. Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th district.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an amendment.
Senator has an amendment. If we will collect it just a moment. Senator may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just a clarifying amendment that restores some of the language that was inadvertently struck in the committee amendment.
Senator, could you check the number of the amendment? Double check that we got the right one.
HB 109, 4835, 29-1.
All right, it just has the wrong senator as the sponsor of it. Huh.
I'll take credit.
It's right on it though. All right.
That's correct.
All right, Senator has moved the amendment.
Move the amendment.
Let's hear from the floor leader of the bill. Oh, this is a committee amendment.
Technically, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
are there any objections to the amendment?
Extremely favorable,
All
friendly amendment, well thought out. I urge the adoption.
All right. Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? If not, it's on third reading for final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 47 votes in the affirmative. House Bill 109 have received a constitutional majority. Is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 588, Delegate Bagnall, Community Action Agencies, Provision of Feminine Hygiene Products.
Chair, let's see, HB 588 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 47 votes in the affirmative. House Bill 588 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 632, Delegate Rosenberg, Baltimore East-West Corridor Transit Study Requirements.
House Bill 632 is on third reader for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from the 45th District has an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Let's just get it loaded into the system. Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you again. This amendment simply amends the amendment that we did on second reader where we talked about the study extending to Baltimore County. This just says that voids that out if it causes undue delay.
All right. Any objections to the amendment? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. House Bill 632 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 47 votes in the affirmative. House Bill 632 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 684, Delegate Bagnall, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, Psychiatric Inpatient Care, Admission Restrictions, Psychiatric Hospital Admissions Equity Act.
House Bill 684 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 684 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 696, Delegate Frazier Hidalgo, Public Utilities Electric School Bus Pilot Program.
House Bill 696 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 696 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 794, Delegate Rosenberg, Public Health Opioid Restitution Fund Advisory Council.
House Bill 794 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 794 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 970, Delegate Kelly, Managed Care Organizations and Health Insurance Carriers, Prior Authorization for HIV Post-Exposure Prophylaxis Prohibition.
House Bill 970 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 970 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1039, Delegate Lukey, Property Tax Community Solar Energy Generating Systems Agrivoltaics.
Chair recognizes Chair of the Committee, third reader.
Have a
An amendment?
Yes,
All right.
That agrovoltaics.
Agrovoltaic. Yeah, right. The chairman could explain what an agrovoltaic is. That'd be
Yes.
on the amendment. On the amendment.
All this amendment does is require that in order to receive a personal property tax credit for the community solar project, that the project must provide at least 50% of the energy for lower moderate income families. We've had this on similar community solar bills, so I would move the amendment.
Senator moves the amendment. Are there any objections to the amendment? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments? If not, on third reading for final passage, HB 1039. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1039, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, let's go to calendar number 41. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 331, Delegate Butler, Local Government Regulation of Amateur Radio Station Antenna Structures.
House Bill 331 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 331, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 464, Delegate Attar, Baltimore City, 41st Legislative District, Alcoholic Beverages Marketplace License.
House Bill 464 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 464, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 516, St. Mary's County Delegation, St. Mary's County Human Relations Commission, Equal Treatment.
Chair recognizes, House Bill 516 is on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've had some interesting conversation among the commissioners and the board members, et cetera, and this bill needs some more time. We'd like to special order it to Monday afternoon.
All right. The senator has moved to special order the bill until the appropriate time after noon. So let's call it noon on Monday. Any objections to the special order? Without objection, the bill will be special ordered to that time. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1026, Delegate Valentino Smith, Human Services, 2-Generation Family Economic Security Commission membership.
House Bill 1026 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1026, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1188, Delegate Patterson, Public Health Sickle Cell Disease.
House Bill 1180 is on third reader for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator, Chair of Finance.
I have a technical amendment.
Senator has a technical amendment. Let's load it up and make sure.
If you want to save time, I can tell you just a date is replicated twice when it only needs to be in the final paragraph once.
Drafting technical change. Any objections to the amendment? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Third reading, final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1188, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1200, Delegate Wells, Environment, Permit Applications, Environmental Justice Screening.
House Bill 1200 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1200, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1210, Delegate Ampry, Baltimore City Alcoholic Beverages Licenses Transfer.
House Bill 1210 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1210, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1221, Delegate Ampry, Baltimore City Alcoholic Beverages, 40th Alcoholic Beverages District. This is an emergency bill.
House Bill 1221 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1221, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1370, Delegate Sample Hughes, Organ and Tissue Donation Awareness Fund, Annual Funding and Extension.
House Bill 1370 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1370 have received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. So, senators, which don't get the joy of seeing, we just had some hand signal come up or something along from our dear friends in the administration. We've lost our chief of staff, so I suspect what may be happening now is that vetoes are being handed over. So we'll see if we have those, but not taking them up tonight, but we'll have them for tomorrow. Assuming there are some, there may not be any, you know. All right. Let's go to, okay, we're going to speed up now. This is what we've been looking for. All right, we are on calendar number 42. Clerk will read the calendar.
Senate third reading calendar number 42, consent number 17.
All right, senators, we have a number of bills on a consent calendar. Please take a look. They are on third reading for final passage. Are there any bills that senators wish to separate? If not, third reading, final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House bills on calendar 42, consent 17 are passed. We've got another consent calendar. This is number 43. Clerk will read the calendar.
Senate third reading calendar number 43, consent number 18.
All right. I don't think it's coming up right on the board. That's a committee consent for it. That's actually pretty confusing. Third reader, not that. I think the board. What? That is consent 18, report 40 is what's showing on the computers. It does say correct there. It does say correct on the top. It is not attributing to calendar 43. Well, we broke the Senate. Is the calendar is it feasible for the calendar to come? We just want to make sure that that senators have a chance to see which bills are on the calendar. Why don't we? Oh, it's a technical issue. Should we? I think we should special order it for 10 minutes. Majority Leader moves to special order the calendar for 10 minutes. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right. Let's go to consent calendar. Let's see if it works. Report number 44. Same problem.
What?
Same problem. Yeah, it's going to the report number. Well, we're going to hold. We'll hold. We'll just stop on the consents. I mean, look, they're consents. We'll deal with them tomorrow. So Majority Leader moves that we special order the consent calendar for 30 minutes. If there are no objections, so ordered. Let's see if we have non-consent. All right, we do have a budget and tax report. Let's go ahead and take up that. Let's see if that will work. This is report number 59 out of budget and tax. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 424, the Speaker, Constitutional Officer Salaries Favorable.
Chair recognizes Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill implements the salary recommendations of the Governor's Salary Commission for the Attorney General, Comptroller of the Treasury, Secretary of State, and the State Treasurer for the upcoming term. There were no amendments. Move adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections with the report? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 424 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 838, Delegate Buckle, Economic Development, Western Maryland Economic Future Investment Board, and Senator George C. Edwards Fund Establishment, favorable.
Chair recognizes the sponsoring senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 838 is exact match to Senate Bill 474, which is body just concurred with House changes. It establishes a Western Maryland Economic Investment Fund program and board and Senator George C. Edwards Fund. From fiscal year 2024 through 2026, the governor must appropriate at least $10 million to the fund in state operating or capital budget. There are no amendments. I move the bill as presented. Thank you.
Was that in mountain language? Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 838 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 896, Chair Appropriations Committee, Maryland Stadium Authority, increase of bond authorization, Camden Yards, favorable.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a departmental bill that increases the amount of taxable or tax-exempt bonds that the Maryland Stadium Authority may issue for sports facilities at Camden Yards to $1.2 billion, split evenly between the football and baseball stadiums and the sports facilities directly related to their operation, and specifies renovation as an additional purpose. To finance acquisition and construction of the baseball and football stadium, the Maryland Stadium Authority must provide certification that has negotiated a lease or renewal or extension of a lease that will not terminate prior to the maturity date or payoff of any bonds issued for the stadium. The comptroller must distribute up to $90 million annually from the state lottery revenues to the Maryland Stadium Facilities Fund. There were no amendments, so a unanimous vote out of committee. Move adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 896 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 897, Chair Appropriations Committee, Economic Development, Sports Entertainment Facilities and Events, Prince George's County Blue Line Corridor Facilities and Racing Facilities, favorable.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee. We have to switch the bill. Senator may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is also a departmental bill that authorizes the Maryland Stadium Authority to issue up to $200 million in bonds for sports entertainment facilities and up to $400 million in bonds for Prince George's Blue Line Corridor. The bill establishes three funds and the Maryland Sports Entertainment Event Program in the MSA, along with a bus rapid transit system grant program to the Maryland Department of Transportation, all of which are funded by state lottery fund distributions. The bill also exempts construction material purchase for specified projects from the sales and use tax. Finally, the bill establishes reporting requirements and legislative intent relating to Laurel Park and Pimlico racing facilities. This also was unanimous out of the committee. Move adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 897 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1477, Washington County Delegation, Washington County Mobile Home Parks and Mobile Home Tax Revisions and Repeal.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 2 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 1477 repeals a provision of law pertaining to Chapter 435 of 2020, which authorized Washington County to impose a tax on the assessed value of mobile homes rather than on the gross receipts of the mobile home parks. Move the adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1477 is ordered printed for third reading. Passed for third reading. Passed for third reading. All right, senators, we are going to quickly adjourn. We're going to do an adjournment and open into a new legislative day. We have things that we had from earlier today. We did get the veto letters from the governor. Sadly, it wasn't a clean sweep, but we'll be figuring out which ones are there. So if we could adjourn to a new legislative day, we have some bills that we got to get over before the House comes in tomorrow morning. So let's say, do we need 5 minutes to reset the system, or what is it? We can just go? Okay, let's say Majority Leader moves to adjourn until 6 o'clock. Would that work? Do quick quorum call.
Mr. President,
has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 47 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, Senator Maryland remains in session. Chair recognizes the
Thank you,
majority
Mr.
leader.
President. I move the Senate of Maryland stand adjourned until the new legislative day at 6 p.m.
Without objection, so ordered. All right. We are going to reset. We are in a time warp. Does everybody feel it? All right. Let's go ahead and call the Senate back to order. Sergeant Arms, secure the door. Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful day. Hope everyone had a great sleep. And let's go ahead and call the roll do a quorum call.
Mr. President,
has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 44 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, Senate Maryland remains in session. We'll waive the reading of an invocation, and we will go ahead and waive the reading of the journal from the prior legislative day. Let's go to third reading calendar number 83. 83. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 98, Senator Carrozza, Somerset County Natural Resources Sunday Hunting.
Senate Bill 98 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 98 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 140, Senator Eckert, Talbot County Deer and Turkey Hunting Sundays.
Senate Bill 140 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 140 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 220, Calvert County Senators, Calvert County Sunday Hunting.
Senate Bill 220 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, 220 is passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 342, Senator Hershey, Caroline County and Queen Anne's County Natural Resources Sunday Hunting.
Senate Bill 342 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 342 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 637, Senator Augustine, Health and Health Insurance, Behavioral Health Services Expansion,
Senate Bill-
Behavioral Health System Modernization Act.
Senate Bill 637 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 637, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 754, Senator Hester, Local Government Cybersecurity Coordination and Operations, Local Cybersecurity Support Act of 2022. This is an emergency bill.
Senate Bill 754 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 754, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 811, Senator Hester, State Government Information Technology and Cybersecurity Related Infrastructure, Modernized Maryland Act of 2022. This is an emergency bill.
Senate Bill 811 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 811, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 812, Senator Hester, State Government Cybersecurity Coordination and Governance.
Senate Bill 812 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 812, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. What's next? Let's go to calendar number 49. Yes, Chair recognizes the senator from the 27th District.
Yes, Mr. President. May I be recorded in the green on Senate Bills 98 and 140 in the green?
98 and 140. Any objections? It's a little bit, so actually, you can, we're going to do it this time, but on third reader, we got to be in our seats, folks. We got to be in our seats for third reader. We can't have people voting for other people. This is Senate of Maryland. It's not House of Delegates, right? This is a different place. That was a little rough. That was a little more of a dig than I meant it to be. It's been a long day, long day, long day, long day. All right. That's right. All right. On calendar 49, clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 21, Delegate Cullison, State Board for the Certification of Residential Child Care Program Professionals, Membership and Official Seal.
All right, House Bill 21 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 21, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 143, Delegate Otto, Somerset County Natural Resources Sunday Hunting.
House Bill 143 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 143, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 170, Delegate Clark, Calvert County Sunday Hunting.
House Bill 170 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 170, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 218, Delegate Kelly, Health Occupations, Nursing, Dialysis Technicians.
House Bill 218 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 218, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 220, Delegate Kelly, Health Occupations State Board of Massage Therapy Examiners, requiring license to practice and other revisions.
House Bill 220, third reader, final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 220, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 229, Delegate K. Young, Pharmacist, Administration of Injectable Medications for Treatment of Sexually Transmitted Infections.
House Bill 229 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 229, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 243, Montgomery County Delegation, Montgomery County Board of Education Student Member Scholarship.
House Bill 243 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 243, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 485, Montgomery County Delegation, Montgomery County Deer Hunting Sundays.
All right, House Bill 485 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 485, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 556, Delegate Aaron's, Caroline County and Queen Anne's County Natural Resources Sunday Hunting.
House Bill 556 is on third reader for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th District on the bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Yes, I have an amendment.
Senator, that's an amendment.
This is 703222.
All right. Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you very much. We are so appreciative on the Eastern Shore and around the state to get extra days for Sunday hunting that Dorchester County wanted to be included. So this amendment just merely adds Dorchester to the additional counties who have additional days for Sunday hunting. And I want to thank the chairman and others who are working on this. I would move the amendment.
Senator moves the amendment. Chair, are there any objections to the amendment? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Third reading, final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 556, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Let's go to number 50. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 53, Delegate R. Lewis, Vehicle Laws, Dedicated Bus Lanes, Prohibition, and Monitoring Systems.
House Bill 53 is on third reader for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have this amendment I tried to offer earlier. This is now third reader, so I'm offering it again.
All right, we have the senator's amendment. We will collect it. Why don't we just generally, contextually explain it while it's being delivered?
Absolutely. So the bill involves monitoring of cars that are in dedicated bus lanes in Baltimore City. The monitoring is the issue. So there are three reasons why a car would be in a dedicated bus lane. It would be illegally parked. It would be illegally traveling in the bus lane and continuing on, or it would be legally in the bus lane preparing to turn right at the next intersection. So what this bill provides is that the monitoring cameras must be video cameras, so that if someone receives a citation and was in fact preparing to turn right, and therefore the citation was incorrect, they could go online, take a look at the video, and then contest the citation. That's what the bill does.
All right, Senator moves the amendment. Let's hear from the floor leader.
We accept it as friendly.
Deemed a friendly amendment. Any objections? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further? House Bill 53 is on third reader for final passage. Clerk will call. Any discussion? And if not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 37 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 53 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 208, Delegate Moon, Courts Payment for Jury Service.
House Bill 208 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 208 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 372, Delegate Clippinger, Baltimore City Board of License Commissioners, licensee hours of operation and enforcement.
House Bill 372 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 372 is passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 446, Delegate Forbes, Baltimore County Disposition of Marriage Ceremony Fee.
House Bill 446 is on third reader, final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 446 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 513, Delegate Ebersol, Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health Support Services Program established.
House Bill 513 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 513 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 519, Delegate Williams, Circuit Court Clerks, Salary Increase.
House Bill 519 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 44 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 519 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 585, Delegate P. Young, Baltimore County Orphans Court Judges and Surviving Spouses Pensions.
House Bill 585 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 585 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 615, Delegate Healy, Real Property Condominiums and Homeowners Associations Dispute Settlement.
House Bill 615 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 615 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 817, Delegate Shetty, Criminal Law, Violation of a Protective Order, Merger Prohibition, and Separate Senate Authorization.
House Bill 817 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 817 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1323, Delegate Bartlett, Victims of Sexual Abuse, Provision of Services, Technical Correction.
House Bill 1323 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1323 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. All right, we're almost there, I promise. We got 3 more calendars and 4 more calendars, but 3 of them are consents. They're consents, so one more real one and then consent. So we're almost there. We're almost there. I promise it's worth it. It means less Saturday. That's the key. This is calendar 51. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 51, Delegate Motts, Talbot County Deer and Turkey Hunting Sundays.
House Bill 51 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? All right, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 51 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 440, Delegate Clippinger, Electricity, Community Solar Energy Generating Systems, Net Energy Metering, and Generating Capacity.
House Bill 440 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 440 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 662, Delegate Guyton, Advisory Stakeholder Group on Autism-Related Needs, Interagency Disabilities Board, and the State Coordinator for Autism Strategy, Membership, Staffing, and Appointments.
House Bill 662 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 662 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 694, Delegate Charkoudian, Hospitals, Financial Assistance, Medical Bill Reimbursement.
House Bill 694 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 694 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 766, Delegate Kaiser, Children Residential Treatment Centers, Education Funding.
House Bill 766 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 766 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1052, Delegate Holmes, Public Safety, Natural Gas, and Liquefied Propane Piping Systems, Construction Requirements, Flynn and Laird Act.
House Bill 1052 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 47 votes in the affirmative, 1052 is passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1082, Delegate Pena Melnick, Public Health, Consumer Health Information Hub and Requirements.
House Bill 1082 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1082 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1127, Delegate Pendergrass, Public Health State Designated Exchange Health Data Utility.
House Bill 1127 is on third reader, final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 37 votes, 37 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1127 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1391, Delegate Frazier Hidalgo, Clean Cars Act of 2022.
House Bill 1391 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 41 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1391 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. We've reached the consents. This is calendar 45. Let's see if it works. It looks
third
correct.
reading calendar number 45, consent calendar number 20.
All right, senators, take a look. Any bills that senators wish to separate? Chair recognizes Minority Leader.
Yes, House Bill 850.
850 will be separated. Any additional? Double check. If not, let's take up the calendar that is everything but 850. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House bills on consent 20 having received a constitutional majority declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 850, Delegate Wilkins, Schools, Pre-Kindergarten Programs, and County Boards of Education Discrimination.
House Bill 850 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 34 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 850, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Let's go to consent 46.
Senate third reading calendar number 46, consent number 21.
All right, these are on third reader for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from District 2.
Yes, can we pull out House Bill 1106?
1106 will be separated. Any others? 1106 is coming out. All right, on the remainder, third reading, final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, the bills on consent calendar 21 have received a constitutional majority declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1106, Washington County Delegation. Washington County Alcoholic Beverages Licenses Wine.
House Bill 1106 is on third reader for final passage. Are we okay here? All right. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1106, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Consent number 47. All right, clerk will read the calendar.
Senate third reading calendar number 47, consent number 22.
All right, 4 bills on the calendar. Any bills that senators wish to separate? If not, third reading, final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House bills on consent 22 having received a constitutional majority declared passed. Chair recognizes the minority whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just need to change a vote. HB 1391 from green to red.
1391, green to red.
Thank
Any
you, Mr.
objections?
President.
Without objection, so ordered. Yes, Senator from Prince George's.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to be recorded in the green on the last consent calendar, please, which was,
I'm sorry, on the last consent calendar to be, Senator wishes to be requested in the green.
Yes.
Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes Senator from District 4.
House Bill 1127 from green to red.
1127, green to red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Senator from 29.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 1127 from green to red.
1127, green to red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered.
And House Bill 1391 from
1391, green to red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes the Senator from Frederick City.
Thank you, Mr. President. With your permission, I'd like to request the body reconsider the vote to special order House Bill 1253. It's the Alcohol Tobacco Commission clarification bill.
All right, Senator has requested that we reconsider the vote by which we special ordered House Bill 1253. Is that the right number? 1253. On the motion, anyone object? No objections. The motion carries. House Bill 1253 is now before the body on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. All right, promise it's the last thing here. Special order 79. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 433, Delegate Wells, Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners, student members, and task force to study compensation and student members. Questions on the adoption of the favorable report?
All right, question is on the adoption of the favorable committee report. We've already heard the report out. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 433 is ordered passed for third reading. We do have those two consents that got stuck. They can wait till tomorrow. All right, busy day, I know. It's been a long day. Any committee announcements? Tomorrow, 10 o'clock tomorrow.
Senate Finance will vote at 9:15.
9:15 for finance. Education, health, environmental is good. Chair recognizes Chair of Budget and Tax.
Happen again.
9:15 for budget and tax.
9:15 for budget and tax. Judicial proceedings, they're good. All right, any others? Rules, exec noms, anything? Any other announcements? Delegation chair recognizes the co-chair of the protocol committee? No. Senator from Middle Eastern Shore?
Senator from the Middle Eastern Shore. Thank you very much. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get choked up, but it's been a sad week in Talbot County with the passing of our beloved former judge, Honorable Bill Horn. As you know, Bill Horn served in the House of Delegates, and he actually was appointed to the House of Delegates, I believe, in 1973, and he served till 1989. He replaced Thomas Hunter Lowe from Talbot County. And we heard about Thomas Hunter Lowe today when we were talking about the Women's Caucus, but Thomas Hunter Lowe was the Speaker of the House. But Bill Horn had a remarkable career. He was a veteran, and then when he came back from the service, he actually went to law school, and he worked as a probation officer, and then he worked as an assistant state's attorney. He became the state's attorney, and then he went on and went to the Maryland House of Delegates until he was appointed as judge. And so he has been very influential to many of us, helping us, steering us in the right direction, giving us advice. And it's been a real loss in our community. So actually tonight, right now, is his viewing. The service will be tomorrow at 11 o'clock. And I'm just asking the body, although he wasn't a part of the Senate of Maryland, he was very good friends with Senator Mike Miller, our president before, and friendly with very many folks. He had quite a network in Maryland. So I would like to adjourn today in honor of the Honorable William Bill Scott Horn.
Without objection, thank you, Senator, for bringing that to our attention. We will certainly do so. Excellent man, was a great guy. All right, any additional items before we do Chair recognizes Chair of Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs.
Mr. President, we may have one bill to deal with tomorrow, so if the committee could meet at 9:45.
9:45 for Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs. All right, anything else? Chair recognizes the Senator from Howard and Carroll. No. Protocol.
Thank you. Just one last reminder to go to the Market House. We'll start remarks at 7:15. Thank you.
All right. 7:15. Let's do a quorum call before we adjourn.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. 47 members in the chamber and a quorum being present. Senate of Maryland remains in session. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate of Maryland stand adjourned until Saturday, April 9th at 10 a.m. in honor of the Honorable William Bill Scott Horn.
Without objection, so ordered. See you later.